You're listening to the In the Mix podcast with Marvin Joles. Here's your host.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. We're glad to have you in the mix with us. Like I said last time, you kind of noticed a continuous theme in these episodes and what we're doing. The questions are the same that we keep asking the guest, and the responses are far different between guests, which is fun for me. Some of them are more in-depth. Some aren't in-depth. Some are simple. Some are complex. The point of it all is to show the diversity in the responses to the questions and how the topics of the questions affect us as people, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people within the asphalt industry and beyond. Today, I have a good friend, a longtime good friend. We've done a lot of stuff together. We've tried to do stuff together that didn't pan out, and then we've done things together that did pan out. We're multiple experimental ideists, I guess, together. Sometimes we'll talk business, or we'll just text business because Daniel's too busy. And then sometimes we'll just call and we'll talk for a long time, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. Today's guest is Daniel Wright. Daniel, give us an introduction quick to people who don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like you said, we've been friends for quite some time now, probably about, I guess since about 2017-ish, is when we first met, through the old school Facebook groups.
Yep.
And then, that relationship got to flourish a little bit more in 2018 when I met you at the first trade show up in Cleveland, Ohio, and then just gone from there. So, yeah, I mean, that's you and I. We've gone back many years. Probably one of my first friends that I developed in this industry. So there's a huge thank you to that. But yeah, about me. I mean, married. I'll be 10 years this year, 2025. Be 10 years for Kelsey and I. Got 4 pups that are our children, and yeah, I've got a Proline parking lot maintenance in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've owned it since 2016, so we're going on our 9th year of owning that, and we got a killer team that it's taken a lot of years to get it dialed in, but we've got a great group of individuals that are contributing to what we're doing here in our market and our industry, and making a heck of a difference, not just in our market, but on the industry as a whole. And that's a whole lot of fun right now.
Yeah, I think before we get into the questions, that's what you, in conversations in previous content we've made together, whatever, you're like, we want to change the industry. Like, we want to change the perception of the industry and the way that the industry is perceived itself. And I think that that's a huge thing to do to begin with, but I think you're finally moving some earth off of that mountain, right? And it's like, okay,
we are, man. And when we really dialed in our mission of, we exist to change and impact lives in and around the pavement maintenance industry. I mean, that's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I for the longest time, I wanted to be the best striping company or the best seal coating company, like all the doing the things.
Yeah.
And then it was, probably a year or two ago, maybe a little longer than that I started to really think about, like, why are we doing this? Like, why does this actually matter? Because let's face it, nobody actually gives a crap about the lines you paint on the parking lot unless they're not there and you don't know where to park your car.
Yeah, that's
you don't care about the maintenance of it unless you have a pothole. So it's like we got to find a bigger and deeper why to doing what we do. And then I started to realize, based on some of the people that we had coming into our company and working with us, I was like, man, we have a platform to take people at various places in life, early on in life, people who are starting a second career in their life, a part-time job, whatever it may be. And we get to be that vehicle, that opportunity for them to impact, to be able to impact their lives, and then what that can do for their families or their friends or whatever it may be. And then on the flip side of it, for our clients, getting to provide them a different experience, of contractors in our space. Same thing with vendors. The vendors always feel like they're getting browbeat by by contractors like us. And it's like, if we can actually treat our vendors and be appreciative of them and respectful to them, that it starts there. It starts there, and it trickles all down. So there's a story about us and one of the vendors that we've worked with for many years, and I'll tell you that story at some point if you want to get into it here. But it's one of the most proud stories of our company has to do with a vendor and how they see us and the stories they tell about us to other contractors.
Well, if we don't get into it in the questions and conversation, tell it before we get off the air.
Sounds good.
That way we got
if
it.
you want it, you remind me. How about that?
All right. Yeah, that's not going to happen. My brain barely functions anymore. Some of these conversations you and I've had, most of the time after a half a glass of bourbon times two, we get to them. And some of them have been great ones because I don't think this isn't a detriment to you or anything. I just think it's your personality. You usually don't let people pass the gate off the sidewalk. But you and I have been able to dive into those waters a little bit, just off some trust built through our friendship. And I get to hear some of the stories about your grandfather, and then I get to hear some stories about your dad and your family. And I know that they've had a profound impact on you, those stories, and not even those stories, just those people in general, and the way that you treat business, the way you see it, and what you hope to do with it. I think it's great that you're here with me to talk about these things because, as I said, I'm looking for diversity for these questions and these topics. And I think you, as much as you probably don't want to know it, you're a unique individual and your life looks unique compared to most of the average person's lifestyle. So I would say that about myself too. I just don't get to interview myself really all that much. I'm sure I will on one of these. I'll ask myself these questions to let you guys know my answers to them, but that ain't happening today. So in general,
I think that'd be great.
Do you? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you should interview yourself and actually have like a two-sided conversation going on.
So pretty much what happens to me every day.
Yeah, just record it.
Okay, I'll just record it this time. Okay, cool. Well, the other one of me has a full head of hair, big beard. He's 6'4", ripped body. So we'll see. AI can do anything nowadays.
That's right. Make it happen. I count on you.
What's an average day look like for Daniel Wright?
Yeah.
When you wake up, right from when your eyes crack open.
Oh, I put my robe and my slippers on first.
Okay. Don't sleep in your robe.
Actually, first I make sure all of our dogs are alive because we got some old ones.
Before so I wake up. Your robe on?
It depends. Depends on how cold it is in the room. If it's real cold, I'll put the robe on first. If not, then I'll go check on all the dogs, make sure they're all still breathing.
Sounds like an excuse.
Household.
That sounds like an excuse.
Yeah, but so I do that. Wake up, I spend the first 45 minutes to hour of my day having coffee, and I do a devotional every morning. The topics on the devotional vary. I use the Bible app on my phone, so it's got all different topics, whether it's marriage or leadership or patience, things like that, all the stuff that I feel like I need to work on. So I do a devotional in the morning, have my time with God in the morning to start the day off. And then I do typically about a half hour or so of reading some sort of a personal or business development type book. I've been doing that for many years now. And it's a good way to kind of just get my brain woken up and get going for the day without getting into all the crap that's inevitably going to come, right? The news, the social media, the business problems, the questions, the drama, whatever it may be. So that first hour of the day or so, it sets my tone for the day. Anybody who knows me, yourself included, knows that if that first hour of the day gets interrupted or does not go to plan, I don't particularly like it. It's something that definitely kind of, just doesn't let me get centered, doesn't let me get my day started right. I've gotten better at it. I've gotten a little bit more understanding and flexible that life happens, but that's the first hour. From there, fast forward a little bit, get ready for the day. And then I typically go get a workout in, try to work out for about an hour or so every day.
So when do you leave the house? When do you leave the house to go work out usually?
I try to leave the house by about 7:15 or so.
Okay. And then you get done working out, what time usually?
Typically I'm leaving the gym, or if I'm working out at the house, I'll leave the house by typically about 8:45, 9 o'clock. Okay. Now during that workout time, there's a lot of time where I'm answering emails and questions and things like that, kind of in between sets or whatever.
Yep.
But it is, it's people who've been with me long enough know that, like, hey, Daniel's typically readily available starting around 9 o'clock, unless it's something that's an emergency or you just need to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's how I kind of work out there. Do that about 5 to 6 days a week. It used to be 7 days a week. And I realized that a little too much rigidity in my life can also have negative consequences and negative side effects.
What do you mean?
If I get into something that should happen every single day, and then there's a day that it doesn't, the way my brain works is that there's something wrong with the day. And so
Okay.
it sends it kind of into a negative spiral. So I started saying, hey, you know what? If I can get, somewhere between 5 to 7 days a week, work out, then I'm doing better than probably 98% of people, at least the people I know, if not,
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to start learning patience, learning flexibility, learning adaptability is something that I've had to do. And I've known I had to do it because the direction the business is going to go is going to require some flexibility and adaptability. Um,
You mean it's not
with,
going to be
with
perfect all the time?
apparently not.
Huh.
Apparently not.
I'm glad you gave yourself 2% grace off of 100% to be
Yeah.
90%
Yeah.
decent.
I'm working on it, Marvin. I'm working on it.
Every few years, the construction industry comes together in a big way, and that event is ConExpo ConAg. ConExpo ConAg takes over Las Vegas this March, bringing contractors, manufacturers, and innovators from all around the world together. This is where you see the equipment, technology, and ideas that shape the future of construction. We're excited to be partnering with ConExpo ConAg to be part of that conversation. You can use code Marvin20 to save 20% on your registration. And to learn more, you can head over to conexpoconag.com.
I worked out 7 days a week for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then finally, Kelsey asked me one day, she goes, that's great. You can do something every single day, but what happens if you get off of it? Can you get back on? And I'm like, that's a good question. That's a different outlook of discipline or, holding yourself accountable. So that's why, sometimes I give myself grace, travel in this past week or so, I wouldn't, case in point, my flights got delayed. I didn't end up having time to get a workout in before I had a, event to go to the night we got into town and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, today it just didn't go as planned, but I still have a duty to show up a very good version of myself to the people who are counting on it. So it's just a matter of being able to adapt to the things that I can't control. Now, on most days when I can control it, then I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And
Yeah.
that's just how that goes.
So once you get to work and you start doing your thing, what time do you usually start to wind down?
Yeah, I mean, my work day typically goes on average from about 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. is kind of the average time. Now, there's times where it flows into 7, 8 o'clock if I'm on a roll with something.
Mhm.
And there's times where maybe it ends a little bit earlier if we've got plans or a meeting or anything like that to go to. So I typically start winding down by about 6 o'clock for the day. And then, then it's having dinner. It's about a 50-50 shot, whether we go out to dinner, whether we eat at home,
Yep.
because not having any kids, sometimes it's just as cost effective to go out to eat as it is to spend time cooking at home.
Yeah.
We do that. And then, wind down for the evening. I've gotten swindled into watching a little bit of TV shows, sitcom stuff in the evening with Kelsey. That's not something I normally get into.
Right now, you all are doing that?
Do what?
Right now, y'all are doing that regularly?
Yeah, right now
You watch it?
we've been on Yellowstone
Okay.
for the last several weeks.
Okay.
So we were just stuff like that, just to kind of,
You've been spending
I guess just
time
give your brain give your brain something else to think about, talk about, enjoy.
Yeah. You've been you Kelsey works with you. So I mean, you guys got, if you wanted to talk about work all the time, you could, but that's not really how you base a relationship. You've come to find that out, I would imagine. Like, she don't want to talk about it all the time. You guys got the sunroom on the back, which I've been to, which I know is a good place for you to relax once in a while. If y'all want to do that. How old are you, Daniel?
I just turned 34 at the end of November.
And how long have you owned Proline?
It'd be 9 years this year.
Okay. Just to give a basis, I'm trying to figure out like where you're at in life and how much of the time you've had building it. To give people some perspective, let us know, give us a really short synopsis of the journey. Like when you bought it, what was there? What'd you have? Who all was involved? And then just numbers of like how many people are there now and what you have and what's involved.
Yep. Yeah. When I took it over, it was one machine, one line striping machine, and a trailer, and a good name and a good brand. So I did get that with it, but it was a part-time job. I was a full-time fireman, had a couple other jobs as well. So it was one of 4 jobs I had. Jumped into that at the end of 2016, 2017, sold my lawn care company that I had for actually the same price that I bought the striping company for, Proline. And then by the end of 2017, I left another one of my part-time jobs. 2018, Kelsey graduated nursing school, got a job offer to have a full-time position with benefits and everything. So then I left the fire department as a full-time fireman in 2018, and that's when it really took off. It was our biggest, like, from one year to another growth year. That's also when we started adding seal coating and crack sealing, so more pavement maintenance services in it. And then honestly, 2018 to probably about 2021 or so was a lot of just growing the maintenance side of stuff. We would sprinkle in a few subcontracted projects that we couldn't do here and there, but it wasn't a major part of our business.
Yeah.
And then over the last like 2 to 3 years or so, we've done a lot more working with partners, doing paving and concrete projects, larger scale, and building those relationships with them so that we can serve the clients that have a wider variety of needs, as opposed to telling them, sorry, we don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started out with just myself and a couple of helpers, and now we've got 12 of us on board full time. And it's about 6 in operations. We have a full-time media marketing person. That's Mr. Randy. He's killing it. Full-time admin, Megan, and then Kelsey and I are running sales and all the other odd stuff. And then we've actually got a new sales estimator starting here in February.
Cool.
So here in a couple of weeks, we'll be adding one more to the roster.
Like, it's not that the challenges are more or less, but they're different challenges from when you first started to now, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So this past year, we just closed the door on 2024. What was your biggest challenge this past year? And it can be business, or it doesn't have to be business. It can be just Daniel Wright too. I know business consumes a lot of your time, but what was your biggest challenge if you look back in 2024, you think?
Yeah, they're tied together, Marvin. Business and personal, business and Daniel Wright are tied together. And that was my biggest challenge. Like a lot of people that we probably know, 2024 was a good year. It's not like it was this catastrophic year in the economy or things like that, but it was a very hard year. The year from a revenue standpoint started off much lower than we expected, much slower in general. We weren't selling the type of projects we thought we were going to be selling, so we had to figure out how to adapt and pivot and move to be able to still compete in our game, in our business.
Mm-hmm.
With that, obviously, when things aren't going the way you plan, there's constraints that come in, whether it's personnel constraints and the stresses of that, whether it's financial constraints and the stresses of that. And I had a massive problem with the majority of my identity as Daniel Wright is put into, or has been put into, Proline.
Yeah.
And so that's when you talk about the biggest challenge, and you said, it could be business or it could be Daniel. Well, the challenge came from me not being able to separate the two.
Okay.
I did not give myself any grace last year. I was extremely hard on myself, extremely critical on myself, and got to some points of just really low points of thinking, why am I even doing this? Like, does this even matter? It's pointless. I could go freaking work at Lowe's and stock shelves and pay the bills and just figure out life or whatever it is. And, I got into questioning why I even got into this. And so that was my biggest challenge of figuring out how to be able to recognize and realize that I am a good person. I am a good husband. I am a good friend. I'm a good son. Like, I am a good person. Because I felt that since the business was not performing in the way that I expected it to perform, it reflected in the fact that, it was just assumed that it was Daniel's fault and that Daniel messed it up and that Daniel was failing at it.
Yeah. You assume that, you mean Daniel Wright, you assumed that. Like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where I said, I was harder on myself last year than what I truly needed to be. And so last year, to me, honestly, last year was a reset year. I took more time to do things that I just enjoy. Spent time, golfing with Kelsey. Spent more time out on the boat, just not being attached to a phone or an iPad or anything like that. Just spent more time sitting on that sunroom you talked about on the back porch. I just spent more time just enjoying life. And it's a massive dichotomy in my own brain, because when things aren't going as you expect, it's like, why would you spend more time enjoying life. But I also heard something recently that said if you are when you are under stress or sleep deprived, your IQ is actually lower than if you are well rested
True.
and stress free.
Mhm.
And so if you're trying to solve problems while under massive amounts of stress, if you actually take a second and reset and de-stress, then you're probably going to be better set to solve the problems with a higher IQ.
When you're investing in asphalt equipment, trust matters. KM International designs and builds seal coat units, infrared heaters, asphalt hot boxes, and other asphalt maintenance equipment for contractors, municipalities, and professionals across the industry. We run KM seal coat units because they're built tough, they perform in the field, and we trust the people behind the brand. Another big reason we stand behind KM, their equipment is made right here in the USA. Their mission says it best: innovative asphalt maintenance solutions. To learn more, visit kminternational.com, call 810-688-1234, or email sales@kminternational.com.
I was always kind of wondering why I shouldn't be relaxing right now, or I shouldn't be doing these things I enjoy when the business needs me to push it. But sometimes brute force isn't the answer.
Huh.
And, sometimes playing smarter, not harder is the answer. So that was the biggest challenge, is being able to separate my identity and my worth from the business's performance on any given day.
Do you feel like you overcame that challenge, or that you're working on overcoming it? What do you feel?
I'd say I'm 80% overcome it.
Okay.
I mean, this time of year, as you know, with a lot of any businesses or service industry, January, February, and March is always typically the slowest point. Like the first quarter of the year is always our slowest in work, slowest in revenue, slowest in cash flow. And going into this time this year, I'm looking down the tunnel and I see, yep, we're gonna hit a pinch point here, and we're gonna be a little tight here. This isn't gonna go super great, but we have this over here. And so when I say at 80%, there's still the 1 in 5 days where I might be like, oof, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Your heart gets that extra little palpitation or whatever. And you're like,
Yeah.
sheesh. But generally speaking, Marvin, most days, I've said, you know what, this is the game that we've chosen to play, and we're going to play it to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And that's going to, I believe, ultimately result in the outcomes we desire.
So we hyper focused right on 2024 when I asked you that, what was the biggest challenge? And if we did the math, and when you purchased the business, when you went into it full time, and got married, and we kind of got a bird's eye view of it, a snapshot, if you would. But there's a lot more from when you were born until then. And, we have challenges, we have hard things. I'd love to know, what's the single hardest thing that you've ever went through? The hardest thing, not just Proline, but Daniel. What's the hardest thing you ever went through?
If you're trying to say, not relating it to the business, that I'm currently in, the hardest thing for me was in the year 2000 and 2013. Long story short, it was a year and a half after I moved from Indiana to North Carolina. I moved in September of 2011. All of 2012, I spent in North Carolina, here where I still currently live.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for a lawn care and landscape company the majority of the year. I was, the way I tell people, I was working 6-7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. And I would go out to the bar every night and go hang out there, eat shit food, and drink probably too much, and then go home and do it all again the next day. and that's what I did for about a year. And I mean, towards the end of that year is when I got involved in the fire department. So I started kind of learning that there's more to life than just this, than just working all day and going out all night. Got involved in the fire department. So 2012 ended on a pretty good note for me. I mean, I had a job or whatever, but right before Christmas in 2012, the lawn care company, they were basically starting to do layoffs for the winter time. And my very intelligent self decided to tell them, because they said, well, we're going to keep you on. We're going to let this guy go. And I said, well, man, this guy's got a wife and kids and everything like that. I said, I'm a single dude. I said, I'll figure out a job. I said, I'll come back in the spring. I'll figure out something for the next couple months, pay the bills, and we'll do that. Well, that opened up a can of worms for 2013 because I could not find or keep a job to save my life when it
Yeah.
came to 2013. So I spent a lot of evenings eating, maybe eating peanut butter and jelly or ramen noodles. I would not go to the fire station because they would always want to split meals and she'd have to chip in money for the meal. And it was sometimes only, $4 or $5. And I did not have $4 or $5 to chip in
Yeah.
for a meal. So I'd wait to go into the station to volunteer that night until after they already ate dinner. So I didn't have to spend money there. Different things like that. And so 2013 was just that was the story of it. I'd get a job, it'd last for a month or two, and then something would happen. Either I'd quit, they would say, hey, that's probably ain't working out, whatever it is. And so then I started working at a yacht club at the marina there. And it was a great job. I say it was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had in my life. If I say whenever I retire, I'd probably go back and do it again just because it's fun.
What did you do there?
It was just working on the docks, just filling boats up with gas and taking stuff to people's boats out on it was a 400 slip marina. So, I mean, there's tons of boats. They were like the big, like cabin cruisers, sport yachts, all that stuff. So worked at the marina, just had a good time, but, it definitely it was not earning a very livable wage.
Okay.
So long story short, fast forward, that's the year that I met Kelsey.
Okay.
And met her because she was working there. She had just moved to North Carolina from Florida and started working there as a server, and we met. But the whole point of all this, when I say it's the hardest thing I've ever gone through, is because that year, Marvin, I had no idea like why I was even on the face of this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was the year that a lot of people go through, and sometimes people go through it a couple of times, throughout their life. But it was a year where I really just I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a young man that should be able to provide for myself, that should be able to be contributing, that, I felt like I had nothing.
Do you think
And
that like that experience affects how you behave now in some
oh,
capacity?
absolutely, because I never want to go back to that.
Yeah, because you're
I
really
never,
rigid, and I grew up poor, like that, and I'm not as rigid as you are, right? And maybe in my mind, anyways, you and I've always been the good yin and yang. People will say because I'm all, like the stuff you're saying that you need to do now. I've been telling you for like a better part of a decade. Hey, you should do some more of that. Where the stuff that I need to do to tighten up the ship on business side, you're like, hey man, you can't let all this get unraveled. We got to focus on this right here. I feel like kind of whatever we went through, kind of especially in the earlier parts, sets us up for the majority of how we are. But then you get to a certain point, which I'm in front of you, like my age is in front of you. I mean, we're close, but we're not that close in age enough that we're right on the same timeline. I'm 39. But the last couple of years, I've been able to kind of let go of how my 20s made me through most of my 30s. Right.
yeah.
So that's why I'm asking you that question. I'm reflecting on going through that same process of looking back and being like, man, the stuff I went through made me how I was. Now I got to try to unravel that a little bit too, in order to figure out exactly how to make it the rest of the way. Is that the situation you think happened on your end with that?
For the rock, sand, and gravel producers listening, efficiency isn't just about your loaders and your crushers. It's about your data. Bulk Source is the modern operating system that connects the pit to the pavement. Stop running your business on spreadsheets and paper tickets. Bulk Source is an all-in-one cloud platform that handles everything: order management, dispatch, scale ticketing, and invoicing. Give your customers what they actually want: a customer portal where they can view tickets, track orders, and grab invoices in real time, eliminating the game of phone tag. Unlike clunky legacy systems, Bulk Source is cloud native and mobile friendly. It works on any device, iPad, phone, or desktop, and integrates seamlessly with accounting tools like QuickBooks and NetSuite. Streamline your operation, speed up cash flow, and ditch the chaos. Visit bulksource.com to book a demo today.
Every experience or challenge that we go through in life has a direct correlation with who we are today, positive or negative.
Right.
And so the good things we experience affect us in a certain way, and the negative things we experience affect us in a certain way.
Yeah.
You talk about how I'm a very rigid individual, like I'm very routinistic and things like that. Well, if you look at what happened before that year 2013, when I couldn't find or keep a job, I was just literally going through the motions: work all day, drink all night, work all I had no rigidity. And so it resulted in not being a disciplined individual. It resulted in not having any, format of like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what is the point of this? And so it had that direct result. Now, I think I'm at a point where, yes, that it has directly affected me and how I behave and how I think today, because I never want to go back to that. Like I said, I don't want to go back to a life of meaningless. And I think now, ever since I've been able to figure out how to experience meaning, the fire department instilled that a lot in me, because the fire department is very rigid. I mean, it's a paramilitary organization. They have I worked with very good and high performing departments and individuals who instilled that in me, and I saw what can come out of it. And so I think, running away from what was once, meaningless and just kind of wandering through the day and through life, and running toward what I know is possible when you act the complete opposite, is what I took out of that, that year of 2013, where when I actually dial my shit in and do what I need to do, good things will happen.
You kind of spoke to it a little earlier. Like, even though that is like those experiences made you how you are now you're like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't always be that. I need to wind that back a little bit. I need to kind of be free. I know you somewhat more. The word balance, you and I have always hated. I feel like we both mutually hate trying to say, hey, we need to find some balance. We need to do this. Because we're like, no, that's go time, right? And me, I'm like, nah, it's not go time all the time. I'm more like, dude, we're working so that we can have all this free time. When you're like, shit, I can have the free time later on. I need to crunch it all right now. I hate trying to find the balance or using that word, because you're implying that you're looking for something and everybody should be looking for that all the time. When I don't think that's the case. I think that the way that 2013 made you was great for the past decade. And now there's a realization that that's not the key. Like, that's also not the way to be. So now we have to unwind that a little bit. So we look back on 2013 and say, hey, it was a negative thing, but it actually is what was needed in order to get to this point. And it also was needed so that you were the way you were for the past decade or more, so that you could unwind right now. So I think I say that because, you know me, everything works all in motion the way it should, as long as we're not abrasive to it. And as rigid as you want to be, you weren't really abrasive. You were just always like, this is just the way it's got to be right now. So it makes me think about our two paths, which we've went together. I would love to say they're parallel lines, but mine kind of went up and down quite a bit, while yours stayed very horizon-like. And I think that, when you look at ours, they're two different paths, but we walked them together and have keep going and walking them together. But it makes me think about the lessons of life, things I've learned that I've been able to talk to you, and things that you learned that you've been able to speak to me. But I kind of want you to share that with me and with anybody who'd be listening or taking this in. What has life taught you? Because I really enjoy hearing your stories when you're like, hey, my grandpa used to say this. And that's when I get dead quiet, because I like to hear those stories, because I think that they had as big as impact on you as 2013, or mentors that we've been able to see and speak to, and experiences we've had together. You and I have done some, I'm not going to lie, we've had some badass experiences together since you and I have hung out and been on the journey together. But I think that what's unique about you and I is we could both look at the same thing or hear the same line, and it mean completely something different to you than it does to me. And thankfully, we're open enough to share that. I was hoping you would share something like that with me now about life. Like, what has your life taught you? And it can be overarching.
The biggest thing that comes to mind to me, man, that life has taught me is that people matter. Even though we may only actually be on the face of this earth for a blip in time, in the grand scheme of existence, people matter. And getting to know them and listening to their story and figuring out how you can help them achieve their dreams and be a part of their story is a very rewarding part of life. And when you talk about my grandfather and stuff, it's funny because, ironically, right before I got on this call with you, I was on the phone with somebody else, and he, out of nowhere, I mean, I talk to this guy a couple times a year. he brought up like, yeah, man, your grandpa must have taught you something, because apparently I've talked to him about my grandpa.
Wow.
And it's like, so it's like the world comes together in certain ways. And today, like right now in this moment, when you say, what does life touch the most? It's, when I asked my grandfather, because he had a business, he was very good at it, very successful in his business and in his industry. And I always asked him, well, why did you do it? Why? Like, you didn't have to do everything that you did. He said, Daniel, he said, I never set out to make all the money or get all the things or do all the things. He said, I set out to touch as many lives as possible through my business. I've told the story before, when him and my grandma, when they bought a piece of land to build a new house several years ago, they literally put a picture of dirt on Facebook and said they were building a new house, and they had hundreds of likes and comments. I mean, you would think it was a viral post. And I'm like, this guy just put a picture of dirt on Facebook that says, oh, we're building, here's where we're going to build our new house.
Yeah.
And it's like the amount of impact that he's had to have over his life for that many people, an older guy on Facebook who's not, posting all the time or hip or, reposting the trends, to get that many people excited for him to do something. Like, man, like he's had to touch a lot of lives. His mission was accomplished, and it still is. And so I think, what life has taught me, Marvin, is every person has their own story. They have their own reasons for why they do what they do, for what they're trying to get out of it, for what they've gone through. Like you said, the experiences they've gone through make them to who they are today. And to hear about that, I think is interesting. I don't think I can say that I take as much of an interest as you do. You are a much better listener and, ask the questions to get things out of people. Mm-hmm. But every person, I find myself driving down the road a lot and just kind of looking at the car next to me, just wondering, like, what's that person going through? Like, if they're talking on the phone, like, man, what's happening? Is it good? Is it bad or whatever?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of just be kind, because you don't know what they're going through. Like,
exactly.
You don't know what anybody's going through. So just be kind.
Dude, I was just in the airport the other day, and some guy was asking to try and change his order on his food. Like, he was being super polite, and the people behind the counter just start snapping at him.
Yeah.
And I couldn't bite my tongue. I looked at the people. I said, y'all just be nice to him. I said, he was not doing anything wrong. And it actually turned into a whole commotion thing. But
no way, not with you.
Not with me, never. But I was like, just be nice. Like, this guy's just asking for help with something, and you don't got to be mean to him about it.
What kind of perspective has that gained? What kind of perspective have you gotten from understanding that people matter? Because I want you to. You're correct. It's not that you're not correct. But what do we do with that? Like,
I mean, to answer your first question, what perspective?
Yeah, what perspective does that give you when you find that you're like, oh, people matter?
One of the biggest challenges in concrete work is control. Control over quality, control over timing, and control over cost. Cementech designs and delivers volumetric concrete mixers that are some of the most accurate and technologically advanced in the industry. Their equipment gives contractors real control over schedule, budget, and concrete quality, allowing crews to mix exactly what they need when they need it, without the waste and limitations of traditional barrel mixers. I've been in the same industry circles as Cementech for years, and I've interviewed contractors who run their equipment every day. It works, it delivers. If you want to learn more or to find a dealer near you, head to cementtech.com.
The perspective that people matter, people also includes me.
Dang. Okay, so the next part of that was like, how do you use that lesson? So what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for you when you say, I'm a person, I matter? And
if I can look at other people, regardless of where they're at in their life or what's going on in their life, and say that, hey, you don't know what this person's going through. Just be nice to them.
Okay.
Try to help them, hold them accountable. If you got to hold them accountable, like, you're not giving free passes. If I can treat other people like that, why can't I treat myself that way? Yeah. We always say we're our own worst critics. We're our hardest on ourselves. No one else, we're, all the stuff we always hear, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, no one else is living our life. If we want something good out of life, we have to be harder on ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
But I've also heard it said too, if you talk to other people the way you talk to yourself, no one would ever want to be your friend.
Yeah, that's true. That's a lot. That's a good perspective to have on it.
And if I don't want to be my own friend, and if I don't like myself, if I don't value myself on a regular basis, even in the tough times, then why should anyone else? And if I want to live a life and if I want to do something to follow in my grandfather's footsteps and touch as many lives as possible and make an impact through our industry using our business, then I have to. It starts with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the famous Snoop Dogg speech when he's accepting an award. And he says, I want to thank me.
Yeah. I want to
I'm
thank
the one
you for
who showed
having
up
my
on the days.
back. I want me. Yeah. He says all
Yeah, it's like, and it does. It sounds arrogant. It sounds cocky, but man, if we're in a role where we're directly impacting the lives of other people, it starts with us, the good and the bad.
Are you doing that now? Like, is that the thing where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna give myself a little grace. I take a little more time doing this. I do that. Is that you thinking you think giving yourself that, or is that you just trying to keep yourself at the top of your game, figuring out that you need to relax some to be at the top of your game too?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's also for Kelsey and I, for our marriage,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of that relaxation and that grace that I've been giving myself this
Yeah, so that's
past
for
year.
you. Yeah, so that's for you. Yeah, you keep that.
Yeah,
That's gonna be for you too. Believe me.
it is,
Yeah.
but also, Proline could be gone tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? Something out of my control could happen tomorrow. And Proline's gone.
Right.
And I could wake up the next day and start a brand new business.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us living in the country we live in, that's what we get to do.
See, this is the yin and yang. Because you say that when I say Daniel Wright could be gone tomorrow. Right.
Yeah, but then none of it matters.
So we got to make sure that we do what we need to do today. Right. Like it ain't never going to be, well, Daniel worked his guts out every day. Okay. Well, it would have been nice if I would have been able to hang out, or if he would have came here and did this, or we would have got to do that, or just spent time, or call me then and there. Like that's our yin and yang, is me saying, yeah, Proline could be gone tomorrow, but Daniel Wright could be gone tomorrow too. That's like you and I were on a boat one time. You're like, yeah, sometimes I want to post a picture. And I was like, just post the fucking picture. Like you could fucking get run over by a bus and we weren't going to capture this memory. Screw that. Take the picture.
Well, with that, so that's my point, is the reason I've given the grace to myself to go enjoy those times, enjoy those moments with Kelsey or with my friends or whatever it might be. It's because the business could be gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I could go restart the business.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm gone tomorrow or if they're gone tomorrow, sure,
Mm-hmm.
it won't matter to me. I'll be dead.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's to them, like I always tell Kelsey, I've got a life insurance policy that'll make you a very wealthy widow.
Mm-hmm.
However, my goal is to not have the fattest bank accounts, in the world while we're alive. We want to have experience. Because when I'm dead and gone, you're going to burn through that cash.
Yeah.
But you'll never be able to forget about the memories that we got to make together.
Yeah.
And so I want that same thing with my friends, with other family members, with my peers, with people here at Proline.
Yeah.
I want to share those experiences because there's always more money to be made. There's always more things to do. But memories, man, once you can't make them anymore, that's all you got.
Dude, you and I have rode in Ubers and had a great time. We've rode in our own trucks and had a great time. We've ate lobster and steak together, and then we've ate burgers and fries together. And there's not really any measure. The only thing that I think that measures up is that we were together. The rest of it, I can't remember what that food tastes like. I really can't remember the details of the vehicles and when we were at shows or what hotel we stayed in. I know it was nice. I'm like, well, what was nice about it? Well, it was nice. Like, that's kind of what I know. So I think we've gained a lot of perspective on like what matters, what doesn't matter, and how we want to live our lives. And it makes me get down to a couple of the last questions. And this is a bigger one, which is unique. I was really excited that you agreed to do this with me because so far you're the only person that I think is going to be able to answer the question this way, or at least have the basis to answer it. If you could teach something to your kids, and even if you don't have any, that you would really want to sink in for them so that they don't have to learn it on their own, right? You're like, hey, I hope they get this. What would it be? Where you're like, man, I really hope they get this. What would it be?
Honestly, Marvin, it's probably going to be a little cliche, but I would want them to know and understand and believe that they are always going to be capable of more than what they think.
In what aspect?
Everything.
All aspects.
Yeah, everything. Whether it's if you think that you're being the best spouse that you can be when you're older and you're married, like you can actually be better.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as a perfect spouse.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that you can only achieve X type of position in a career or a business, like no, you are capable of more. Like unless you have a physical or a mental
Ability
thing that you can't
barrier.
control. Yeah, like something that impairs you to do something. Even then though, we see people all the time that are the
A
inspiration,
lot of
motivation,
examples. Yeah, man.
yeah, that are capable of more than they ever thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
They're an amputee that thinks their life is over, and next thing you know, they're on a circuit traveling the world, inspiring people, hundreds of thousands of millions of people.
Yep.
And so it's like, just don't ever sell yourself short.
How'd you learn that? How'd you learn that?
I believe I'm living proof of it. I used to think that having a business half my size was going to be impossible and would take my whole life to accomplish. And here we are. And then now when I look at it, I feel like we're not even getting started. Like we're just warming up. It's like I look at, and that's something you have to understand about me is I've been involved in some sort of owning my own business for more or less over half of my life.
Yeah.
And so it's been a thing with me. Like that's just who I am. And so a lot of my metrics come from business and size and scale and whatever it may be. And so it's like I'm living proof of it. I always thought I would be a good husband, but I'm a pretty damn good one. I actually got complimented twice yesterday for being a good husband.
Did Kelsey give you one of them? Kelsey give you?
No.
Oh,
no, I reminded her though. I told her, hey, if you didn't hear those guys, I said, hey,
that's a trait of a good husband, believe me.
Yeah. I reminded her.
Yeah, hey, just so you don't forget. They think I'm a good husband over here.
Sometimes this industry gives us more than a paycheck. It gives us the chance to give back. Dream on 3 creates custom sports dreams for children living with life-altering medical conditions. Moments that give families hope, joy, and memories that last a lifetime. This isn't about attention or headlines. It's about showing up for kids and families during some of the hardest moments of their lives. We believe in the mission of Dream on 3, and we're proud to support and help raise awareness for the work they're doing. To learn more, visit dreamon3.org and follow them on Instagram at dream_on_3.
JJ tells me that, my greatest, what's he say? My greatest gift is my generosity. I think sometimes I can be stingy or I can be whatever, but anybody who knows me says that, yeah, if it was up to Daniel, he'd give the baby away with give everything away.
Yeah.
And live in a box. That's just how I am. That's why Kelsey keeps us, make sure we keep a roof over our head. But, but no, it goes back to what I was saying. A person's always their own worst critic. They're always the hardest on themselves. But I don't think that should get in the way of knowing and believing that you are more capable than what you believe. And it's a tough dichotomy for anybody who actually has high aspirations because you feel like you're never going to be able to achieve them. But if you stay on the track for long enough, then you're going to look back and be really surprised at what you were able to accomplish.
Yeah. I think we've both been able to both been able to see, I don't know if we both adhered to this, but we've both been able to see that if you develop, there's a path. No matter what, there's a path to what you want to do. And sometimes that means sacrificing from one thing to give to the other and really being hard onto it and putting in the work to get there, or studying harder or whatever it is. Like if I want to be more relaxed, I got to be able to find a way to get more relaxed, which means letting go of some other stuff. So it makes me think about Daniel Wright, my friend, and I would love to know what the future looks like for Daniel Wright. Like what are you going to look like in 5 to 10 years? Like what if I look at Daniel Wright, what am I going to see? What are you going to be doing? Like how are you going to be? What's in your future?
I mean, there's a lot of different aspects that could be dissected or discussed. But I think generally speaking, I mean, 5 to 10 years down the road is just going to be a bigger version of what we're doing now. That's what I'm aiming for.
You're gonna have more time. You have more time off.
I'm sorry.
You have more time off. You're going to be doing more leisurely things? You're going to be taking time more doing that? Or are you going to be at scale the same?
Yes, that at scale the same.
Okay.
Because you said earlier, we don't like the word balance. That's a word that neither of us really care for. And I think when it comes to the whole work-life balance, things like that, it's bullshit. The people just need to throw that out of their vocabulary. Instead, they need to replace that with prioritization. What do you prioritize?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, nobody tells you, or like whoever's telling you that you have to only work 40 hours a week, or you have to be, here on Saturday mornings, or you have to do this, or like it's my life.
Yeah.
I can prioritize it however I want. That's my balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, like you said, it's at scale. So if we're growing this company and we have new locations that are added and things like that, and then my role requires me to have to travel a little bit more, well, great. Maybe every time I have to go travel to one of our other locations, I build in an extra day or two for Kelsey and I to go golf for a day and enjoy an evening out in a city that we don't get to go to often.
That's nice.
Or whatever it might be. So it's doing what we're doing now at scale.
Mm-hmm.
I like to work. The fact that Kelsey now works in the business with me and we are running this together. It's like I said earlier, we don't have human kids, we have dog kids.
Yep.
And so this is our thing. This is what we get to build and raise together.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to do more and more of that is going to be what's going to offer that fulfillment, that excitement, that challenge, and that accomplishment as we go. And so getting to do that together with her and with the team that we have, and getting to grow and expand that. And then, the goal would be to recruit more of the type of people we have already, and or build in, bring in people we can build to the type of people we have. We've got a great organization now, Marvin. And so going forward, there's not going to be any crazy massive changes. Oh, we're going to be doing this, or it's just, like I said, it's just bigger and more of what we have now.
Yeah.
And everything I intend is going to be to grow at scale. And
that makes me happy.
Yeah, it makes me happy too. It makes me excited. I just want to get there.
Yeah.
And
well, don't hurry up too much. Take your time.
Well, I think sometimes our friend, well, not our friend technically because we haven't met him, but Alex Hormozy always talks about that. He has conversations with his 80-year-old self.
Yeah,
and there's a side of it where if we could talk to the 15-year-old version of ourselves,
mm-hmm.
that 15-year-old version of ourselves would give anything to be where we're at now.
Bingo. Correct.
And so I want to make sure that I'm building a life now that when I'm 80, the 80-year-old version of myself, that I'd say, yes, that's where I want to be.
Okay.
Like I'll feel accomplished. I'll feel like it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Granted, now when we're 80, we would give anything to be 15.
Well, for sure.
If we make it to 80. So it's like we
That's what I just was going to say.
Yeah, to go back and have more time.
Yeah.
But while we're living through this time and living through this life,
mm-hmm.
we should be wanting to build something that the future version of ourselves will be proud of.
Yeah.
Because that's all we're going to have then, is to look back on the life that we've lived now.
Well, we hear a lot of, people saying, when they get older, like there's been a lot of examples of people who talk to people on their deathbeds or people in nursing homes or whatever. And none of them are ever saying, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish I would have spent more time studying, or I wish I would have done this or another. Most time it's the stuff that we wish that we had more time to do right now is the same stuff then. Right. And it's like, well, now we have the bodies to be able to do it and the means to be able to do it. We should be doing it. And that's always been my big point. It's hard to do that without pushing where we've had to push business wise as well, right, through the years. And I think the big thing you were saying earlier is who's to say, what I need to do or what you need to do or whatever. When it comes to happiness, that's the same thing too. Like, who's to tell me what makes me happy, or who's to tell you what makes you happy? Like, there's none of that. The only thing is like, if you can ask somebody, or you look in the mirror and be like, am I happy or not happy? If I'm not, I need to make an adjustment somewhere. And for me, that means a lot less work than what Daniel Wright does, right? And for Daniel, maybe that means I just need a little bit of free time that Marvin has, and I'm able to do it and be precise with it, and that fulfills me and gets me there. And I think for us finding that out, I've been happy how to be happy has been key, because there's just so many examples outside of you and I on social media or in society or in the world where they're telling us to go 20x and go all out all the time, sleep 4 hours and, and do that for 10 years and put in the grind and put everything else. And it's like, dude, I'm going to die. I'm going to collapse. I'm going to break if I do that. And I know that. Now, there are some people who can do it and pull it off and do it well, and kudos. I'm glad they can, but that's not me. And I found that out, and that's okay. But that don't mean that I'm going to be telling you can't do that. It's just,
Exactly.
I think it's finding that gap there. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see the future Daniel. I'm excited to see hopefully we can eat solid food when we're 80. Well, if not, we're going to be saying, this is great mashed potatoes and applesauce. Wow, fantastic. Perfect.
Oh,
Remember
man.
when
Like you said earlier, you don't remember the food that we ate in all those great places. You just remember having a good time. So hopefully we can remember the time we had when we're 82.
Yeah, that would be great. If we could even recall that, would be great. Otherwise, just live in the moment, man. I've heard that too. Live for the moment. We'll have to be doing that too. So, man, I really appreciate you joining me and let me grill you a little bit on these today. Yeah, I'm thankful, and also for sharing your experiences with us. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate the questions. I always enjoy a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So for myself here in sunny, beautiful, tropical Wisconsin, and for Daniel over somewhere on the east side of the country in the Carolinas, we appreciate you joining us, and hopefully you found this information insightful as well as, what I want to say, Daniel, insightful as well as
inspiring.
Oh, inspiring. There we go. See, yin and yang. I told you. All right. We'll talk to y'all later. And as always, stay in the mix. Peace.